When you're at the edge, there's a sense of possibility and a rush of excitement. There's a compulsion to go further and push beyond. At the edge, we discover, find solutions, know our strengths as individuals, and understand the power of working with others. We feel the urgency to make an impact that's vital to people, places, and the planet. The edge is a mindset and an advantage. It's a physical place too, and ours is on a rugged coastline, on the tip of an island, within a circle, beside a magnificent continent, looking out to the world. It changes the way we see things, the way we think. Our edge drives our excellence in the health of the oceans, indigenous knowledge, clean growth, and healthy communities. It's in the strength of our partnerships and within our community, rich with diverse perspectives. At the edge, students get hands-on and researchers get close up. Dynamic, research-inspired teaching and learning fuels personal growth and career success. Learning is personalized and our campus just the right size, big enough to make a difference and small enough to care. Exciting things happen at the edge. It's where we lead and inspire change. It propels us to what's next. Our edge is ever evolving and far-reaching, and it's here with us in every place, in every moment. When you get to the edge, you know it. And when you get to know the University of Victoria, you'll feel it. The edge is here.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to another Facebook Live session here at the University of Victoria. I'm your host, Kevin, and today I'm meeting students in the Faculty of Fine Arts. All these beauties have tons of experience. They are majorly incredible students, so let's get to meet them and hear what they're all about.
Hi, everyone. I'm Josh. I'm a third-year creative writing student at UVic, and I'm originally from Vancouver.
Hi, I'm Jordan. I'm a fourth-year visual arts student. I'm from Lake Couch in British Columbia.
Hey, my name's Bryn. I'm from Nanaimo, BC, and I'm a fourth-year visual arts computer science student.
Hi, I'm Megan. I'm a fourth-year theater student, and I am a Canadian citizen, but I grew up traveling outside the country.
Hey everyone, my name is Bryce. I am originally from Banff, Alberta, and I'm a third-year art history major and theater design minor.
Hi, my name is Jamie. I'm from Abbotsford, BC. I am a fourth-year music student in the musical arts stream, and my instrument is the flute.
Awesome. Pleasure meeting all of you. So over the next hour, all of you are going to be meeting these fantastic students. So ask your questions and get to know them, because one day you could be here in their shoes. So first and foremost, I've got a question for everybody, and I want to know, why did you choose the fine arts at UVic? So we're going to go round table, and we're going to start on Jamie's side this time.
In high school, I was really involved in music, and I always just pictured myself in Victoria. I love the environment, I love being close to the beach, I love the campus here, it's so beautiful, and the music program is really great because everyone is so connected and supportive of each other. It's just a really nice environment to be in.
I also have a connection with the area. Like Jamie said, it's beautiful here, so that's part of the reason why I moved to Victoria. But another thing that really helped me with deciding where to go was that UVic is one of the best comprehensive universities in Canada, so I wasn't too sure which direction I wanted to go, so it was really helpful to know that I had a lot of options at UVic. That's what helped me.
Yeah, going off of that, I originally came for directing, although now I'm in applied theater, and UVic not only had one of the only undergraduate directing majors, but it also had, you could make a really comprehensive foundation of theater courses and also just fine arts in general. So that's what I wanted in my education.
I actually have kind of a long route that took me to fine arts. I started in computer engineering here at UVic, And I kind of wandered from there into software engineering, doing various like programming jobs, which took me to the co-op program. And I co-opted several places, including Microsoft down in Seattle. And while I was down at Microsoft, I worked with like some really awesome designers and really kind of got going with design and learning more about art and design, which drew me to the Computer Science Visual Arts combined program here at UVic. And then I switched into it, and for the past 2 years, I've been doing my visual arts portion of my degree.
Yeah, for me, having grown up on the island, it was a comfortable transition. It's something familiar, because when you kind of grow up in one of the most beautiful places in the world, it's kind of hard to make that change. And UVic offered a program that was directly lined up with what I was looking to do, so it kind of seemed like a no-brainer.
Yeah, I grew up in Cordova Bay, actually. I lived here for a few years, and I just remember like growing up like 5 minutes from the beach and just like walking after school. I'm like, this is a dream. And I knew always I wanted to come back to Victoria. I lived in Vancouver for a bit, and then I mainly chose UVic because, I mean, their writing program is like renowned, known throughout like the world. Like, we're learning from professors who are published in like the Globe and Mail, Maclean's, Harper's, and just being able to learn like the tips and tricks of the whole agency, the whole publishing world, like how to get published, how to get your work out, like from your own professors is really what drew me here. And yeah.
Right on. Thank you for letting me know a little bit about why you chose UVic. So I heard quite a bit about environment there. I heard a lot about co-op, which we'll get to in a little bit as well. So a really cool, diverse group with great answers. So thank you for letting me and all those guys out there know what's going on. And now I also want to know what you think is the best part about fine arts here at UVic. So there's a lot to it, and I was learning quite a bit before this session, because you have sculpting and painting and media and fine arts, and there's so much involved to it. So what, in your opinion, is the best part about studying fine arts here for yourself? And we'll go back around table, I think. So we'll start with Josh on this side.
Sure. Yeah, one of the things that's really unique about the fine arts, and for writing, for me, as you kind of get from first year on to second year and third year, your class is really narrow. And like my third year classes right now, it's like a maximum of 15 people. And in my specific genre, I'm studying creative nonfiction writing. So a lot of people are writing like nonfiction personal stories about themselves. And it's really unique to learn like stories about other people and like in your own classrooms to hear their own kind of life experiences and stories. And it's really like a tight-knit community because you're like kind of like learning different stories from other people. And that was really just awesome because it's, you know, getting to know somebody and you're like kind of making friends in your whole classroom. And I just really enjoyed that aspect.
Yeah, so with the fine arts, I think it helps that we have this hub of a building where it's just, it's the fine arts building, so we all can kind of come into this one area and collaborate and meet each other, and we have labs and facilities that we're all kind of destined to go into eventually. So it's an opportunity and a place to kind of meet each other and kind of network through each other and learn about things that you might not have otherwise known about. And I think the fine arts building kind of definitely supplements that.
I think the biggest thing for me in visual arts has just been like the access to facilities and like experience of professors. Since I've switched into visual arts, I've been doing a lot more sculpture and like contemporary sculpture. So since I've been here, I learned to weld. We have a full metal shop and a full wood shop, and I've learned a ton about carpentry, even though I still suck at it. I actually have right now, I have like a 400-pound steel sculpture sitting out in the sculpture yard here, which it's taken me pretty much all semester to get up and get going, but I'm very proud of.
I feel like in the upper year courses especially, there's a lot of room to use the class as a lens to explore what you want to explore, and small class sizes are a part of that. Like I have one class this year which has 3 people. I'm one of the 3 people, which at first was a little bit jarring, but then like the first week the professor sat down with us and she's like, what do you want this course to be? What do you want to learn? And we just got that much more power. And I think you can do that a lot.
I kind of will build on what Jordan was saying about a little bit of a community here. And I personally am really inspired, creatively inspired by what my colleagues in the fine arts are doing. So I'll often go from the art history building over to the visual arts building and see what exhibitions are on. I'll definitely take in shows at the Phoenix Theater because I'm also involved there. taken performances at the music building too. There's some beautiful performances there. So I really like having that community, and there's lots of really amazing things in my program that I'm passionate about too. So we have now in the art history department an object handling room, so we can actually handle artworks like indigenous masks and beautiful textiles. So I think that's pretty amazing.
I find in the School of Music, what I really like is that it's a really nice size of people in it. So everybody knows everybody more or less, which is really nice. The people that we've had classes with since first year, we're still friends with them, even though we're in fourth year now, and everyone's still pretty tight-knit. And even though it's competitive, there's a lot of support among the students. And even with your professors, chances are they know who you are pretty well and what your instrument is, and you know all of them well, really, too. So it's really nice to just have this community in the music building where everybody knows everyone and is supportive of each other. I think that's my favorite thing about this place.
Super jealous, I think, because in the sciences, we don't really have that. So you guys, sounds like there's a lot of cool networking opportunities, a lot of connections that you have with your professors and each other. So really do like that. And Megan, I liked how you kind of put a fine art spin on things and said that each class is your own lens, which is pretty cool. So you can see it through your own object. So that's really neat. And a sculpting yard, we're going to get to that later, I think, which is pretty neat. And so Dylan, we've got our first question. Hey, Dylan. Hello, hello. And Dylan wants to know, what do assignments and projects look like in your program? And he also wants to know what courses from high school helped you get into and succeed so far in your programs here at UVic. So I'm going to go over to Josh for this one. As a creative arts student in writing, can you tell us a little bit about the projects you've done and how high school helped you prepare?
Yeah, absolutely. I think my favorite class in high school was actually English 12, and I thought that really prepared me because we're like learning like Shakespeare, and I really love Shakespeare, and we're learning like how to write essays properly and structure our own ideas. And I remember in high school I learned how to like create my own kind of short stories, and that was really kind of cool. And so yeah, in creative writing, I'm focusing more on like creative nonfiction writing. So a lot of my own stories are on like personal essays, and I kind of relate it to a lot like writing in a diary kind of thing. Like I kept a diary when I was a kid. And now I'm like writing a lot of those experiences for like classrooms and for people to kind of like read from and learn from. And it's really kind of cool to like have like this feeling of like writing your own kind of personal stories, your own kind of like essays kind of thing, and like being graded for them. It's really kind of unique, and sharing your own kind of own experiences and stuff. So like those are the kind of projects I do. In other electives, I've like written short stories. I've written screenplays before, so like short 10 to 12 page screenplays, and that kind of stuff. I wrote poetry, and a lot of like different types of genres. We do a lot of different kind of assignments and projects and stuff, like final papers and like, yeah.
Yeah, so, is that you?
Go for it. Give her.
Yeah, so to speak towards visual arts, the assignments, it's kind of you get out what you put in deals. So when you come from high school, you're kind of taking your interests and you're pushing them further. So for example, a photography class, the only really criteria they're going to give you for a project would be take 3 photos, and these photos have to be connected in some way, and then you take that and you push it into your own interests, and the program just overall kind of caters to that. It'll be less technical and more kind of exploring your interests and how you express those interests. So I wouldn't worry too much about the technical stuff you're going to need to pick up in visual arts from high school, because that'll all come when you start out.
Perfect. And I also want to go to you, Jamie, because from my understanding, you did a bit of English, and now you're in the music program here at UVic. So what did you feel that you did in high school to help you prepare for not only English, but then the switch over into the music program?
Yeah, so before I decided to pursue music, I actually spent 2 years focusing on an English degree at another institution. While I was working on that degree, I was giving private piano lessons for a job, and it was during that time that I realized I wanted to pursue music a bit more seriously than just something on the side. So I took a year off of school, I took private lessons, and then I came to UVic, so I'm in my 4th year now. In high school, what I really found helped me prepare for English specifically was just the English classes. I loved reading, I loved writing, so that I really put into those 2 years. As for music, I was really big into the music program. I was like huge band geek, as people say. It was really what I did. When I started taking private lessons in my year off before coming here, I think that was the biggest step of what I could do in really preparing for the music program, is just putting as much of myself as I could into it before actually being here, and then once being here, continuing to do that.
And one more, I just want to ask Megan. So you started with directing, but then ended up in applied theater. So did you do lots of drama in high school? Was that something that you did, or was it very different? So.
I've been doing drama for a long time. I mean, I started off wanting to act, like I'm sure, I think most theater kids do, but somewhere along the way I decided that I didn't have the energy. Then I found directing, and I thought that's what I wanted to do for a long time. And it was around 2nd year. I mean, we have applied theater here, which I don't think is very well advertised. No one really knows what applied theater is. So it's using theater for education or community building purposes, which I think is really cool. And it can look like so many different things. So in 2nd year, I kind of made the world's smallest major change, because people really start to get into their focuses on 3rd year. So I just took this class instead of that class. And all of a sudden I was in applied theater, and I was still, you can kind of be in any position you want in applied theater. You can be an applied theater actor, designer. I'm still a director, and I'm still exploring directing. I'm just doing it from a perspective that's very linked in with social issues and education and stuff like that. And I couldn't be happier.
Right on. I mean, I didn't know what applied theater was, and now I do. So that's really cool. So I'm like, whoa, what? That's amazing. So thank you for enlightening me and for everybody out there. Talking a lot about the programs, and for all of you folks being involved with fine arts as much as you are, I feel like there needs to be kind of a sense of pride within your programs as well. So what do you feel the atmosphere is like entering as a first-year student, and how did you kind of use that first-year vibe to excel into what you're doing now with all of your projects? So Bryce, I'm going to go to you for this one, and I just want to hear from your thoughts and your opinions. What is the atmosphere like here in fine arts?
The atmosphere is fantastic. I get a lot off of the passion of the instructors and my fellow students. So those discussions we have in fine arts lectures are super fun for me, and I think most fine arts students, art history students. First year, it's been a bit for me, but first year, I will say it was unusual for my experience, because I went pretty much directly into smaller class sizes. Maybe that's a common thing actually in fine arts. I'm going to probably say that's probably a common thing in this department. So whereas in a lot of departments, your first year might be in a large lecture hall with like 100 people, that's not really, has not been much of my experience. So right off the get-go, it was pretty comfortable, had good rapport building with my instructors, with my colleagues. So I thought that was pretty comfortable and fun. So I know I'd say it's pretty relaxed and pretty intimate, which is really nice.
Love it. I don't think people really think of the word relax when they think of university, so I like that spin on things. And for Bryn, for yourself, so you're a combined major, so the atmosphere is going to be different for you in your visual arts and then your computer science. So for you, can you differentiate the atmospheres between your comp sci classes and then some of your art and your sculpting and the stuff that you're doing here within the visual arts building and the fine arts program?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing that you would notice as a first year is class size. Because for my first year computer science courses, it's easily 300 people in a lecture. You're in one of like the biggest lecture halls on campus, and you like can't even see your instructor's face really, let alone hear them. They wear a microphone. So having switched in recently to visual arts, I did a bunch of my first year courses actually last year. And the first thing I would notice is my biggest class was 30 people. Most of my classes were 15 or 20 people, and there was a ton of hands-on time one-to-one with the instructor, where they would come and they would like sit down with you and talk about your work, and they really cared about your work. I think in my bigger courses in computer science, or even some of my like computer science prerequisites where I did like my math courses and stuff, I think I probably talked to my instructor maybe twice, and that was only because I went to the office hours. If I hadn't gone to the office hours, I never would have seen them. So that's definitely like a huge difference for me. I think visual arts also really, it'll pull you into the community more easily. I think you can coast through something like computer science or a more like traditionally academic degree like that with lectures without really interacting with the academic community or talking to your professors. But in visual arts, you are one-on-one with your instructors. Like I said, last year here, within like 3 weeks, I ended up working in the labs we have here in the fine arts, and I was helping other students. I was helping people in creative writing. I was working with Jordan, who's been in visual arts for a while, and he was showing me the ropes, teaching me Photoshop, and I was teaching him Illustrator because Jordan doesn't know how to use Illustrator.
Nice, cool. It's a little collab sesh going on over here, which is great. So from what I understand, there's a lot of one-on-one professor help that you find that's kind of everlasting for your degrees. And so, Jamie, for you, in the music program, there are obviously other musicians. How do you find the one-on-one help in the music program has kind of affected yourself and kind of helped you prepare for post-grad life maybe one day?
Well, I find music is unique because you have your classes and you have your professors who teach music theory and music history and your music electives. But then you also have your instrument professors. So I work with Dr. Snyzik, who is the flute professor, and I spend one-on-one time with her probably at least every week for an hour, sometimes twice a week. And we will just do my lessons that way. So we'll spend an hour on lessons on the stuff I've been working on all week. I'm also doing some scholarship stuff that she's helping me with. I'm doing the Jamie Castles Undergraduate Research Award, the J. Cura, and she is my mentor for that. So she's been helping me with that a lot one-on-one. And so you have the one-on-one aspect in music of you're working with your instrument professor a lot of one-on-one time, but you also have your academic side. And for that, there's still a lot of one-on-one time. I remember in a second-year music theory course, we had a project where we had to take a piece and rearrange it. And I remember just the professor for that being really open, and we would go to his office hours one-on-one and spend half an hour with him just getting extra feedback. And this past semester, I had another course in orchestration where we took a piano piece and orchestrated it. And for that, we had a lot of one-on-one time. I went in for like a 20-minute session for some help with him, and then we sat for an hour just working on it, talking on it, and I got some really great feedback. So there's a lot of really good one-on-one time in the music program.
I didn't know that. So you have dedicated professors based on your instrument. So that is really neat to get that one-on-one. So thank you for sharing that. And Josh, I want to flip over to you for a sec because you are a little bit of a rarity. You are a student who stayed in Victoria and pursued the University of Victoria, as most students aren't actually from the region of Victoria who attend UVic. So why did you decide to stay at UVic and continue studying, stay in Victoria, and why did you choose UVic as your go-to university?
I actually grew up in Vancouver for a bit, but I was stayed in Victoria for a few years when I was younger. But I just love the community and the whole kind of Victoria vibes and everything. It's just awesome. I also run track and cross country for the Vikes, and it's one of the things I noticed when I'm running through trails or people always wave to me and say hi to me, and it's just a really kind of friendly and welcoming environment. And yeah, like was mentioned before, just about writing specifically, I found that my profs are very open and welcoming to checking my work. I remember my first year, I was absolutely terrified of showing some of my own personal essays and stuff. And I remember I wanted to go to the office hours, but in high school, I was office hours, seeing the professor, that's oh my God, sit down with him one-on-one, that's terrifying. And I remember I went to visit the office hours for the first time in first year, and I walked around the building 2 times before getting the confidence to be able to go into the office hours. But once I finally okay, 1, 2, 3, I'm going in, I went in, and they're all really welcoming and inviting, and it's really they actually genuinely care about your work and want to make you a better writer. So I think that whole just kind of friendly atmosphere just really drew me to Victoria and maybe wanted to stay and pursue everything here.
Awesome, thank you. So I hear a lot about environment and the relationships between professors, which is awesome, but I want to get to the nitty gritty. What is it about your faculty and your program that's really drawn you into it, aside from relations with professors, aside from the environment in Victoria? What has been kind of your specific niche for your program that's really taken you home and brought you to UVic? Jordan, let's go with you.
Sure. Yeah, so I think it's the relationships you develop within the program that kind of keep you here. And I'll be honest, going through my program, even second year, I wasn't really sure like what was going to be the outcome, and I was comfortable with that. But I think what kind of grew my passion for visual arts and kind of continuing to pursue it was the friends you make. That's being able to walk into a building and know almost every single person you walk by, and just kind of pull someone aside and, hey, what do you think of this? And then they'll be like, hey, I've got something to ask you. And then you go look at their work, and you kind of it's the honest feedback through your peers that actually help you grow and keep you modest about yourself and keep you realistic about what you're doing. And I think it's absolutely necessary to kind of build this cohort of people to actually invest yourself here.
Yeah, Megan, go for it.
So once again, I'm in applied theater. That's kind of an unusual thing. There's quite a bit of applied theater, quite a lot of applied theater programs in Europe, but I think there's like 3, maybe 4 in North America. So that's kind of why I stayed. I learned that there was so much more you could do with theater than I ever thought was possible. Like when I came, I wanted to be a director, I wanted to go to Broadway. I thought that was it. But it turns out there's a lot of really cool theater happening all around the world, and like applied theater, other paths as well can lead you to that. So as someone who grew up abroad, that really appeals to me. I know people who grew up in one place, and that's also the life that they want. So there's just such a benefit with so many different people doing so many different things in UVic. You're probably going to find someone who has an idea that you want to explore with them. They'll probably let you explore it. And beyond that, I think there's a real benefit with Victoria being kind of like an artistic incubation city, that it's not the center of the world, that you can really have time to grow.
Right on. I like that. So I had no idea that this was one of the few applied theater programs, but even for both Jordan and Megan, like the fact that you had your peer support, which is awesome, and the fact that you're growing and that you were opened up to a whole new world of possibilities when you arrived is really cool as well. And everybody did talk a lot about projects, and I want to get a little bit into more of some of the specific work that you've done here at UVic throughout your degrees. And earlier, Megan, you mentioned J-Kira, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about, sorry, Jamie. Oh man, Jamie and Bryn. So you guys talked about J-Kira, so I want to hear more about your J-Kira projects, what they were, what it is, how it's funded, and what you plan to do with that eventually. So maybe we'll go over to Jamie first, and then we'll flip over to Bryn afterwards.
Yeah, so the J-Kira Award is something open to 3rd and 4th year undergraduate students. I had looked into applying last year, but it wasn't great timing. I'd been away for the summer when the application was due. So I went for it this year, and I got approved. It is $1,500 funding for the scholarship, I believe, which is really cool. And with that, you get to go and do a research project. So what I'm doing with mine is I am researching the importance of Canadian music and just why it's important to play Canadian music and explore it, what's out there. I've specifically chosen a piece for solo flute by Owen Underhill, who is a Vancouver composer. And so as a part of my project, I'm going to be learning that piece and then recording it so that when I do the presentation, people can plug in and listen to it as well.
Thanks. I was introduced to the Jamie Castles Undergraduate Research Award while I was actually on co-op. I was working on campus at a research lab over in computer science, led by a professor, Dr. Margaret Ann Story, who I've actually since become friends with and who has been a total mentor for me in computer science in terms of all kinds of crazy stuff. She's also one of the coolest professors at UVic, no offense to other professors, but she's always running off to go down to Microsoft Research and do stuff with them and coming and bringing all her cool stuff back to her research group. So I was working there, and I basically received an email which was like, hey, you should do this. There's 3 days left to apply. And I was like, 3 days left to apply? That sounds like my kind of deal. So I jumped in on it and ended up working on a really awesome project, basically designing some software for social media investigations, which would help analysts kind of like look through different like social media posts and like find trends. It was like really exciting, nerdy stuff. Yeah, and at the end of the day, in like the spring, I got to put together a really sweet poster and present it. They take one of the rooms in our student union building, this huge room, and they get everyone in there with all their posters. And there's people from all over Victoria who come and visit, and they check out all the posters. And Jamie Kessel's the university president, who the award's named after. He comes around individually to everyone, and he talks with you, and he looks at your project, and he like hears about how you did and stuff, and you get to shake hands with him and take a picture.
Right on, thank you. And so we did mention something a little bit about co-op there. And just before we go on our video break, I do want to touch base on the co-op. And Bryce, you've had an interesting pathway leading into your co-op. So can you tell us a little bit about what you did, what co-op is in general, and how you kind of found your project and how it fit into your degree?
So one of my major passions outside of art history and outside of theater is outrigger canoeing. So it's like a Polynesian Hawaiian style sport. We go out on the ocean, we surf waves. It's so much fun. And that led me into a job here at a paddling club where I teach dragon boating. I coach dragon boating. We put on race events, and I help coordinate volunteers for that, and a bunch of stuff like that. So what I'm getting at is that I use that experience. I registered that job as a co-op experience through UVic, which means I got credit for doing work, which goes towards my degree, which is great. And through that process, I learned a lot about what I was looking for in a career, and that was extremely helpful. Probably one of the most helpful things I've done in my university career. So having a chance to work with the co-op team and say, well, what are you looking for in a career? That kind of stuff. So not directly applied to fine arts, but there's a whole bunch of skills I learned in that job and through my examination of why I was at that job and why I liked that job that led to me knowing what sort of skills I want to apply to a fine arts career going forward.
Perfect, thank you, Bryce. And we're gonna talk a little bit more about co-op and work study and how you can actually work through your degree when we get back. But first, we're gonna take a look at a quick little video. So we're gonna stay here, but you folks will get a little bit of a break from us. We'll see you in a few minutes.
The Faculty of Fine Arts is a great sort of pressure cooker for ideas. We have this little community outside of Ring Road, and it gives you the opportunity to feel like you're part of an artistic community, a sort of world where everyone is coming up with crazy new projects that'll change the world.
At UVic, we're given the opportunity to collaborate with people of varying specialties all throughout our degree.
It was a really kind of transformative experience to work with professors so directly and work with your cohort so directly as well.
The caliber of faculty members that we have, they give you materials and content and want you to critically reflect. And they're very engaging. And in the midst of that, they are very caring.
If you're interested in learning something, not necessarily, in a class, there's plenty of resources and plenty of ways that you can get hands-on learning with those.
It isn't just painting and drawing, it's integrated media art, so there's light and there's sound and there's video work, and they've got all these opportunities. Like, you don't need to choose one sort of medium to go into. Like, you have the opportunity to diverse and change your mind and do what really suits your own ideas.
I want to inspire people to find their own voice and to use it unapologetically.
UVic gives you multiple ways of learning, can really give you an edge.
When you leave UVic with a fine arts degree, you can't help but feel like your work is going to have an impact.
Welcome back. Promise we wouldn't leave, and we're still here. So hopefully you have more questions for us. We were talking about co-ops just before our break. And Bryn, you've had some co-ops, but I wanted to hear a little bit more about your journey through the co-op experience, where you went, and if you can also talk about how you got into co-op. Like, what does that look like? How do you get the jobs?
So my journey through co-op's a little bit interesting. I started here at UVic in engineering. And as you might know, co-op is mandatory in engineering, so you have to do at least 4 co-op terms during your time at UVic. So I basically went into it being like, this is something I'm going to have to do. I'm going to need to get jobs, and so I need to start applying right away. Full disclosure, I think literally every program at UVic should be mandatory co-op because it's amazing. And I have learned so much, as you're about to hear. So it would have been my first year at UVic, and basically, I sat down basically way too late, 2 months before I needed the job, and fired off a bunch of applications. I ended up landing my first co-op job in Victoria at a company called Latitude Geographics. And during my 4 months there, I actually ended up, I was hired to do QA, so quality assurance, and test their software and make sure it was okay. But one of the developers there took me under his wing, and he had me basically build an entire application from scratch, from the ground up, which is part of their product suite now and is something they ship. So that was a really awesome start and a really cool realization. Fast forward a year from there, I was looking for co-ops again and applying. I was in the interview process for a top secret Canadian government agency, which I'm not allowed to name. And that was going okay. And then basically I'd handed a resume to a Microsoft recruiter actually at a job fair here at UVic, which kind of brings me to the other really awesome thing in engineering, which is the co-op department there holds all these job fairs. They get all these companies on campus. So we have Facebook, Google, Microsoft here, and you can talk one-on-one with recruiters and put a resume in their hands, which is one of the best ways to get a job. That landed me a job actually in Vancouver, where I worked on some top secret tech, which has since launched. It's called the Surface Hub, if you want to look at it. But it was very fun. It was all security badges and things we weren't allowed to talk about. We were sworn to absolute secrecy. And that took me to a research job here at UVic, where I got to work with a professor and learn a bunch about kind of academia and how that works. And really, it was a great way of feeling out if I wanted to do, say, a master's degree or a PhD, which she really wants me to do. And I'm sorry, Margaret, we'll see. And so from there, I got a call back from Microsoft. They were like, hey, do you want to come back and work for us again? And I was like, maybe. And they were like, OK, we'll pay you a lot of money and fly you to Seattle, and we'll give you a bicycle. And I was like, OK, if you insist. So I went down to Seattle, and they put you up in a hotel with a bunch of other interns. It was kind of crazy. It was like summer camp, except everyone's making a lot of money, and you're hanging out on one of the world's most high-tech campuses, and you're doing super-duper awesome work with super brilliant people. I made a ton of friends down there. And learned a ton and kind of really got the push I needed from this really awesome senior designer to switch into computer science visual arts. He remains one of my greatest mentors to this day. He worked in video games for a long time on BioShock Infinite. He was the lead user experience designer, and I was just so in awe of him the whole time I was there.
Cool. That's insane. So what an incredible journey. That's super exciting. So just from networking, connecting through co-op, you landed into a degree of your dreams. You have an awesome mentor. And for the folks at home, Bryn did mention he did his co-op locally as well internationally. He went down to Seattle. And you can do your co-ops essentially anywhere in the world, which is one of the cool things about our program here at UVic. So definitely check it out. As Bryn mentioned, they are exciting. And if anyone can do it, you should, which will be fun. But speaking about jobs, I want to switch a little bit into work study. And so for Josh and Jordan, you both have done some work study. Can you describe what a work study is, how it's different from co-op maybe? And you both had some pretty incredible work experiences. If you can talk about those as well, that'd be great.
So basically what a work study is UVic offers this program called Work Study, and you applied for Work Study, and jobs are offered all around campus. And once you apply for Work Study, you are given hours. I won't go into the details, but you basically apply for jobs on campus, and these jobs can vary through working in a kitchen to working alongside a professor. For me, I did a work study as a lab supervisor in the Fine Arts building. Working in the labs, so basically what I was talking about earlier about meeting everyone in the Fine Arts building is I was helping everyone in the Fine Arts building, Bryce being one of them. And so you get a chance to meet faculty, you get a chance to kind of show yourself off and look or be invested in kind of the community as fine arts. And through that, I've been allowed the opportunity to kind of invest myself in that fine arts culture, which has made me noticed by professors like Kelly Richardson. She invited me to go work out on an IMAX commission she has for the 50th anniversary of IMAX out in Port Renfrew for old growth forests. Also, I've been able to kind of show off and meet master students like Levi Glass, who's given me the opportunity to show at Victoria Film Festival this next year in February. So work study allows you to kind of meet people, they get a chance to understand you. It gives you so many different skills you would never even think of, and you're kind of paid an experience more than money could ever allow you. And it's an opportunity that basically the answer is no if you never try anyways. So just seeing what's out there and just seeing what's available to you, it's worth it every time.
Yeah. So after my first year, I volunteered at our local university paper called the Martlet. And then in my second year, I applied for a work study as a staff writer, and I got the job there, and it's just been a fantastic experience. I grew up when I was in grade 3, 4, and 5, waking up at 6 in the morning and sprinting to the front door and reading the newspaper, and all my friends in elementary school were like, "Man, you're crazy! Why are you waking up so early to read the newspaper?" What? So I just was so I wanted my name to be in that byline and have people reading my work, and that's what really drew me to the Martlet. And it's just been amazing on work study to learn the skills of interviewing people and how to kind of facilitate conversation and finding the news angle of stories and being able to write articles and stories. And from there, and also my second year, I was recruited to be a student blogger for My UVic Life, which has also been another great experience. I've been able to share some of my own personal experiences, and I've also been able to talk about running there. And another topic I'm really passionate, which I've been able to express through My UVic Life and the Martlet, is mental health and depression and anxiety and how that plays a big role in my own life. And UVic's been a great university for that. I mean, they have a whole week in January dedicated to mental health awareness, which I thought was amazing. I was able to speak there and kind of share my own personal story in January last year. And I posted blogs on My UVic Life about depression and anxiety, how it impacts me. And one of my own kind of projects I was working on in class, in the summertime, I wrote a kind of own personal essay about mental health, and I was able to pitch it to an editor at the Globe and Mail, and he really enjoyed it, and he responded back to me, going a long-winded response, talking about his own kind of mental health problems in his family. And I replied to him within the next hour saying, thank you for sharing my own story. And that was kind of the whole goal of my piece, was to kind of get people talking about mental health, because it's a really big topic on campus. And UVic has great facilities. They just opened a new peer support center in the Student Union building, which allows for people to just drop in and have conversations with actual counselors that have been trained to talk about problems like that. And so yeah, my piece was published 10 days ago or so in the Globe, and it's just been really awesome to kind of do those own projects in school and get that own experience to get people talking, because I just if my story can reach and help one person, then that's all that really matters. So yeah.
Unreal. So the Globe and Mail, which is huge, and so your work here at UVic kind of branched off and exploded into becoming a national piece, which is amazing, which is groovy. And Jordan, for yourself, like working for IMAX, like I remember just sitting in those auditoriums, and to hear that you got to work and put together, yeah, those you're like he said those cameras, if you haven't heard already, so they must have been huge and amazing. So really exciting stuff, and Bryn as well, just that experience that you guys have developed here at UVic through working throughout your degrees has really kind of solidified your spot, I think, in the world for a post-grad someday, who knows, right? So really, really cool. That's really exciting. I have goosebumps like for what you guys have just done, which is awesome. And now we've got a question from Sev. And Sev wants to know, are there opportunities for improv at UVic? Is there an improv club? So we've talked a lot a bit about working on our overall research and work and the stuff you've put into your degrees, but let's loosen it up a little bit. What are the clubs like here? What is life like in the fine arts community outside the fine arts walls? And so, Megan, I know you know a little bit about the improv club, so can you talk a bit about that and maybe some of your experiences, not maybe in the classroom, but how you've translated your classroom work into the real world in Victoria?
Yeah, so I don't know a lot about the improv club. I know that we have an improv club. That's all the information I can provide for you, honestly. If you Google it, I'm sure you can find something, and I know they have a Facebook page as well. So, there's a lot of different ways, a lot of clubs that you can go and bring your work to. One of the big things that the theater department has, we have SATCO, Student Alternative Theater Company. So that's a great way for, if you're a young writer, whether you're in the theater building, in the writing building, or just anywhere, honestly. If you're a student here, you can submit work and get it produced, build a team together, direct something. I got a really big piece of work up off the ground with Applied Theater about race and representation. It was really well received, and at the end of the year, everyone votes on which play they think should win and should get money to be remounted again. And the play that I did in second year actually won. So we actually got to, from doing it in the theater building, we got to take it to schools and do workshops. And then when I studied abroad, they wanted me to remount it in a different language, so we did that as well. So that tiny little idea, tiny little dream, my tiny little project, literally brought me across the world. There you go. Big deal. Anyone else?
That's really neat how that project just kind of like blew up, which is neat. I know you're like, wow, so that's unreal, from a club to again, international headlines. You guys are making waves in the world, so insane. Bryce, I want to flip it to you as well. How do you think your involvement within the walls of the fine arts community has really broadened your horizon outside of the walls? So what do you think you've done in the program, or even within clubs, that's kind of helped you propel you in your career?
Oh, good question. Mentioning on like building on SATCO, I have gone and seen quite a few of the SATCO productions, and they're so fun. They happen at lunch hour, and you go and it's an hour-long production, and it's super fun. So I always take in as much as the university offers, and all these wonderful creative expressions that are going on all around us. I try to be involved in as much of that as I can, even outside of my study area, because I find it super inspiring for my own work. One thing I really enjoy about the theater department is that every step of the process, they try to involve students in real work to teach you how this works in the real world. So in terms of the productions that are staged through the year, usually in the season there's three to four plays on, and they'll have student set designers, student costume designers, student directors, well, not directors, no, student set designers, costume designers, sound, lighting designers, and a whack of other responsibilities in the production, which is pretty great. So I was happy to have assisted on costume designs for that show, and there's a show coming up called 7 Stories. I'm designing the costumes for that show, so it's super exciting. So I don't think I'm necessarily quite answering your question about clubs, but there's so many ways you can be involved, and I know that the wider UVic community, there are a whole bunch of social clubs specific to each interest area that you can get involved in, and that really helps you meet people that are excited about what you're excited about, and you really build great relationships from there, and you can take them into really interesting areas just for fun or for careers. There's a whole bunch of ways you can take that.
No, I think you answered that perfectly. I think going beyond the walls of your degree and how you are assisting other programs is fantastic. And the SACO sounds amazing. I'm going to have to give you guys my number because I want to watch some of these plays. Sounds like a mini film fest, which sounds amazing. I'm like, all right, I'll do that. And we're going to go to Brandon in just a second, but we did talk about labs earlier. And for me, hearing about labs and fine arts, like that I don't know what that is. So can you describe, I know Jordan and Bryce, you said you worked together a little bit on a lab. So describe what the lab was and how hands-on is it? Actually just tell me about it. So we're gonna go to Bryce first and then go to Jordan after that.
Well, I think maybe Jordan will explain on this, but in terms of his co-op, he was working in the audiovisual lab, or what do we call it? Studio Integrated Media Lab. So he was there as the assistant. So I had a whole bunch of projects for art history, posters, PowerPoint presentations, different things on areas I was researching to present to the class. And the technological side of that, I'm not as strong on. So Jordan was amazing helping me through some of those things. In terms of labs, though, the art history department has a really fascinating thing here at UVic. They have an object handling room. I don't know if I mentioned this. Yeah, I did mention this. Yeah, so this is kind of a lab for art history in the sense that you get to actually handle those art objects, and I think that's pretty amazing.
Cool. Yeah, so the labs kind of, they offer a lot of services. So being a lab supervisor, there's always one of us in the lab. So if you have any interests that you'd like to learn, if there's anything you need help with a project you don't know how to do and it involves a computer and you're like, I've never touched a computer in my life. So you come talk to people like me who are experienced in these fields and basically sit down with you and talk literally step by step on how you go about actually executing on an idea or something like that. And actually working in the labs, I get to kind of feed off everyone else's problems. And then I just become this big well of knowledge that like, how do you know that? It's just like, oh, you know, I picked it up. So it's an opportunity and a collaborative opportunity. So I learn from other people, people learn from me, and it just kind of like trickles down through people and departments, and it's a pretty incredible place.
Awesome, thank you. So again, that peer support that you folks were talking about is really evident kind of just within the walls of the 6U. So thank you for answering questions about labs because I had no idea what those were, and that's kind of amazing for me to find out as well. We've got a question from Clara from Campbell River. Hey Clara, thanks for tuning in. She's got some questions about writing and theater programs. So we've got some writers and some theater people here. So she wants to know how time consuming both programs are, and is it manageable for her to do a double major?
I'll start. So I have not tried to double major. I cannot speak on this personally, but honestly, I've seen a lot of people starting off as double majors, especially as writing and theater majors, and then dropping one or the other. And honestly, that seems like the best choice for them. Some people have done it, but what I'd say is that just because you choose to major in one or the other doesn't mean that you can't explore one or the other. Theater majors were really encouraged to take playwriting classes, but also if you want to do novel writing, if you want to do creative nonfiction, there's also ways to do that. And like I said, with SATCO, with directed studies, there's so many ways that you can still get your writing out there if you're in theater. And also conversely, you don't have to be a theater major to audition for everything. You don't have to be a theater major to get involved. There's still ways to get your interest in education out there, yeah.
Thank you. I like how you said that you don't have to do one thing over another. That kind of falls into place. And from what I'm gathering, the fine arts community here at UVic is very comprehensive because you are all helping each other throughout your degrees, which is really, really neat. And Josh, for you, in terms of your writing, how time-consuming do you feel it has been? Because you are also a varsity track runner. You are doing other things outside of class. So what do you feel is kind of the best route for Clara?
Yeah, I can't speak to personally either doing like double majors either, but yeah, it almost feels like I'm doing double major and like running sometimes. But I just think like being able to like effectively manage your time and know like how much time to dedicate to your own craft and carving out that time while also having like, you know, a social life or exploring other passions of yours. I just think definitely like don't turn down any opportunities that you would do. I was really kind of hesitant about applying for a Martlet job in my second year, and because I was like, oh man, like classwork in my first year was like a lot and it was pretty heavy, but I actually lightened my class a little bit. I'm only taking 4 classes this semester, and I'm treating like the Martlet as kind of like my 5th class. So I just was like really told to like never like turn down something, and I was really grateful for that because it's been like I've got like invaluable experience from that, and I almost treat it like my own kind of co-op. And like I've gone out to, I covered a basketball tournament in the summer where I interviewed like RJ Barrett and a few other Canadian national team stars, and I took a picture with some of the guys afterwards because I was like kind of fanboying. But yeah, I think just like don't limit yourself and always try to explore and push yourself to like ways that you like maybe push up beyond your own limits and boundaries, which is I think really important to test you out.
And just before we move on a little bit, Bryn, I want to talk to you about your combined major because it is busy. It's not a double major, but you know it's fairly close. And so how do you manage with doing your combined major plus your co-op and your work study and all this cool stuff that you're doing in the sculpting yard and the painting? So tell me a little bit about how you manage your time effectively and how you're surviving.
I think one thing that's really important that I kind of, or like my personal approach has been like, it's okay to slow down in your degree. I think like a lot of people come into it and they're like, how many courses can I fit in to one semester, right? It's like, so if I plead with the university, they'll let me do 7 courses a semester, you know? And it's like, yeah, they will, but that sounds awful. Why would you want to do that, you know? Being in university has been like some of the best years of my life, and I love it here. I'm actually like, slight like crisis about graduating, and I have to figure out what I'm gonna do, and I'm like, am I ready to move on? I've only been here for 7 years. But yeah, I think like slowing down is okay, you know, like taking 4 courses a semester, 5 courses a semester. I have lots of friends who are in engineering, and some of them were like, yeah, we're gonna do 6 courses every semester, you know, and we're gonna graduate in only 5.5 years because it's engineering. But pretty much all those people by their 3rd year are like, you know what, this isn't worth it. I can just do like 5 courses a semester and I can still totally get done in a reasonable amount of time. So I think for me, that's really been like kind of about pacing myself. And then also like, I would say easily 50% of the awesome stuff I've done at UVic has been outside of my classes. So I've been like the leader for 3 different clubs. I've gone to hackathons all over North America. I've been to like Philadelphia and stuff, and I've worked down in Seattle. And really, like, a lot of that stuff is because, like, I took the time to go do things outside my classes, and I didn't say, like, how many classes can I possibly fit into a semester?
Thank you. And I like how you kind of said to slow it down, because it's not a race. University is not a race. You'll get there eventually. You'll get that piece of paper, and you're going to get to move on. And I do want to talk a little bit. We are running out of time, but I want to move on to something Bryn mentioned about what happens after graduation. There was a question about residence I want to field in really quickly, and we've got a couple people who've lived in res, which is nice. Josh, I'm going to go to you for this one, actually. And so why did you live in residence? And can you talk a little bit about your experience, just really quickly?
So I decided to live in residence to be able to get to know and meet more people on my floor and stuff. And I know like, coming to university was kind of like really scary to be like, oh man, like I'm alone in this campus of like whatever 20,000 people or whatever. So I think just creating that community, and there was like community leaders around there that really engaged the floor in specific games. And so I really want to be invested in that and kind of get that whole residence experience of, you know, being on your own for the first time and making friends and all that kind of stuff.
Thank you. And for you folks out there, there is a residence living learned community, which is essentially getting to live with a bunch of people who are like-minded. And there is one for fine arts. It's called the Arts Collaborative. So if you wanted to go and apply to live in that, you definitely can. There's separate applications. Make sure you go through that application slowly. And if you do get in, you'll get to meet people who are in the fine arts, just like these fine folks here. We are wrapping up pretty soon, but I do want to get to something that's quite, I think, on everybody's mind. So when you graduate, what's next? What can you do with your fine arts degree? And I know we've talked a lot about working through your degree to get to jobs, but Jamie, I'm going to go to you for this one. And so what do you think? What do you want to do at the end? Because you're doing music, you've got the flute. What is that going to look like for yourself at the end of your degree?
There are lots of options for music. Performance and music education, I feel, are the most common ones, and we do have streams of both of those for majors. Personally, I'm really interested in arts administration. I'd like to find a job doing some sort of background work for a music school or the conservatory or an orchestra or something along those lines. Also, I'd really like to have my own private studio one day. I have spent time teaching lessons privately. It's something I would like to continue and grow on my own. I feel like in fine arts, people kind of think that there aren't a lot of options out there when you're done, but there are really so many. And as you go through your degree, you keep learning about all these opportunities and these jobs that maybe you had never even heard of. And then it's just like eye-openers all the time of, oh, I can do this and this. And when you came into it, you thought there were like 4 things you could do, and now all of a sudden you see there are 100, and there's so many more options than people imagine.
Thank you. And I think just with this panel here, it's amazing to see the diverse jobs that you could eventually get into: Globe and Mail, IMAX, Microsoft, international playwrights, assisting other programs, music education. So there's just so much diversity even within the 6 of you, which is unreal, and I think really exciting for some of our viewers out there to see. Before we go, I do have one more question before a final segment, but I want to hear about your favorite electives, because fine arts has some of the most cool electives that are out there. I took one personally in my third year, and it was a course on time travel. It was a third-year fine arts course taught by Dr. Threlfall. But if you can tell me about your favorite elective, just really quickly what it was, and then we're going to head into our last little bit here, okay? So we'll start with Josh.
I think my favorite elective so far has been writing 440. It's called the writing business, and it's really kind of like, it explores what's been talked about, like what do you want to do with your degree? How can you like explore your degree and what kind of jobs you can get? And that, in that class, like one of the assignments was like kind of networking and like where you should pitch your work. And one of the mini assignments was, that's how I kind of started to pitch my work to the Globe Mail editor. So that really was kind of like the jump-started idea. So I think that's definitely my favorite elective course so far.
This one's pretty easy for me. History of video games. You think you open up a textbook and read about video games? No, you play video games for an entire semester, and it's a beautiful thing. So if you ever see it or ever get the chance, oh, money.
Mine's a little bit different because I started in engineering, so by the time I transferred, all my courses were full with old engineering stuff I'd done. So I've got a bunch of really traditionally hard courses that are now technically my electives, and I think my favorite of those is Elect 216, which is electricity and magnetism. It's kind of somewhere between third-year calculus and three-dimensional calculus and how electrons work, and it's just this random mind-blowing course, and it's incredibly difficult, and all the engineers hate it, and I'm like, cool, that's my elective credit now.
Nice.
In my second year, I believe, there was a special course offered called Theater for Young Audiences. So we got to learn how to make plays for little kids, but also kind of middle grade children. We got to learn about educational theater and how to scale down big issues to age-appropriate sizes, I guess. And also at the end, we got to workshop a play together about residential schools and how we teach that to children. Really cool.
I took an opportunity to do a exchange and to Thailand, which was amazing. So all of those courses I took at the university in Thailand transferred back as elective credit, which is useful because I needed an elective credit. So I thought that was the most smart thing to do.
Music 109, film music. 8:30 in the morning, not ideal, but you go in and for the whole semester almost, you just watch movies and you learn about the soundtracks and the composers, and it was so much fun.
Super cool. So thank you for sharing your electives there. Just before we wrap up, I want to hear in just a couple words the end of this sentence. I want you to finish off, my UVic life is. So just a couple sentence or a word, it can be whatever you'd like, but just finish off the sentence and just state my UVic life is, and we're going to end off there. So we're going to go back around this way. So Jamie, you're lucky number 1.
I think my UVic life is growth and learning.
My UVic life is having access to the most amazing resources on campus and within my program to do what I love to do.
My UVic life is tailor-made for myself.
My UVic life these days is crawling underneath a sculpture and being showered in sparks as I try and cut pieces apart.
My UVic life is collaboration through both peers and faculty.
My UVic life is definitely exploring what I love to do and forming new friendships that I'll hopefully carry with me through the rest of my life.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing about your lives here at UVic. Thank you for telling me all about what fine arts are, what the programs are for everybody out there. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you all learned as much as I did, because I learned a lot. I learned a lot, let me tell you. But thank you to everyone for tuning in. If you have more questions, please continue to ask them. We'll help you out up to 48 hours. And if you have more questions after that, other students are definitely going to try to answer them on the My First Year at UVic Live Facebook page. But thanks again for tuning in. Thank you to my amazing, incredible panel. You guys crushed it. It was great. If you have more questions, tune in, but we'll see all of you at UVic in the near future. Thanks again. Bye.